All right, we are back, and boy, those guys did not make it easy for us, I think. They're three
Yeah.
really great teams, and boy, that's a nice position
Yeah.
to be in. I think Joe
Definitely.
and Kevin, you should be very pleased, and Glenn, with the caliber of what we saw today, and everyone brought it, certainly a different perspective. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to, without any real formal itinerary, we're going to talk about each firm one at a time and give your impressions, your thoughts, your questions, your issues. I just want to remind you of the criteria that was established in the RFP. Of primary consideration was the qualifications and technical competence in the required field, as well as in prior performance, and also their project understanding, approach, methodology. As a secondary criteria, their leadership, integration, and cohesiveness of the team, their ability to deal with aesthetic factors, and their understanding, experience, and approach to sustainability design. So with that, let's start with HGA. And I open the floor to comments and from anybody.
I will start. I was impressed by their holistic approach and many of their different discussions from team members. They all seem to be aware of how what they might do would affect what other team members would have to do. Thus, with the sustainability, there was not the notion of, I think they said, sprinkling energy efficiency onto the buildings, but understanding that the siting of it, the many aspects of the design fit into it. Even when they were discussing media relations, the layout of the parking lot, for instance, might connect to that. This may not actually show up in the design, but it showed me their attitude towards it, how one part affects the other.
Yeah. I also like the diagrams of the space layout, just all different possibility and give a lot of variety, and definitely analysis of the site, what is different from other presentation.
I agree. I thought it was really strong diagrammatically, and I thought that their EOC and their security specialists were really good, really strong team members. I like their clean slides. You could see them, and I like the little image of the person that was speaking to us from each slide. I thought they had nice slide organization.
I thought their mechanical engineer gave a really good response to the question about the variable occupant loads and B3 compliance. It was not a generic kind of response. It was in some detail and thoughtful.
Glenn, Joe, Kevin?
Well, this is Joe. I would echo that a few of their, subject matter experts, for EOC operations and particularly security, very, very impressive, and certainly give me a sense of comfort, especially Michael Rosen, which is interesting that he works as available relationships with two firms, but I certainly was impressed with that, as well as their experience with the FBI headquarters at Brooklyn Park. I do think that's, and I appreciate that they understand and use the words, that this is a facility you kind of get one crack at it, and it's a facility that the state desperately needs. So I think they have a pretty good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish here.
Other
I add
comments?
to the holistic comment that they also stress the interior instead of just aesthetics of the exterior, they addressed the interior as part of the wellness program.
Other comments about this team? Well, I thought it was interesting, the sort of beyond the functioning and design of the facility, I was impressed by the notion that they suggested in terms of schedule and how they might work with you to certainly meet your end game, which is to get a building, you know, up and running by a certain date, but that there was different ways that could happen, and it looked as though they were suggesting perhaps multiple bid packages once the CM at risk came on, you know, any number of things which I think you might want to entertain in order to get this built.
On that point, I thought it was interesting. They had 2 schedule options, which was I was thinking of asking a question, but I don't like talking on these Zooms, so I didn't. You can't, in case you can't tell.
Other comments about HGA and their presentation? All right, with that, they are a Minneapolis firm, neither targeted nor veteran owned, and their net fees per Minnesota employee are $15,458. Turning next to Wold.
It seemed to me that the bulk of their presentation was a really good compilation of visuals of their own projects tied specifically to what they were talking about in terms of design issues. To me, it was not knowing exactly what every image was, but it did sound like they used concrete examples of their own projects to illustrate the needs, and I thought it was very effective.
I agree with the how enjoyable it was to hear and see examples of how they might approach the project, and that level of detail I think kind of spoiled me in terms of some of the other groups. But I thought that it was a strong presentation from not only RDC but the Wold inclusion of how we might use an outdoor space for this building that is designed for the future. Heating using the geothermal access. I thought that was pretty cool.
I noted that as well. It's like heat some slabs.
Yeah.
You know, from our perspective, my perspective, to me, it's very impressive the work they've done with California, King County, Washington. They, I thought, had the best understanding, and maybe, as Bill said, the best visualization of what it is that they think that that this project is all about. So it's that understanding and that demonstration through their presentation that they've done these kinds of things before. They understand what goes into them on a I don't know, a mushier, but a more subjective, the passion that I heard coming out of them for the design and commitment to having what they're visualizing come to pass was, on an emotional level, is very, very strong for me. It was a connection that I didn't feel with the other groups. You know, they didn't treat the questions as kind of a target to knock down, answer the question and move on, but they kind of just leaned into it in that very expressive and and energetic about their thoughts. So the one, kind of, again, this passion for this type of project, and they have a very long and impressive list, more impressive than I remember from looking through the packet of this kind of project.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for the exact match to this project, they probably have the goods better than the other two teams, for what it's worth. But
well, and I just to build out, Joe, what you said, I wrote down what Joel had talked about. This is a symbol of calm.
Yeah.
And that to me sort of resonated with me as well, and I know it's all about, in many ways, it's about the functionality. And we all get that, but that notion of this is a place where people are go to be led, to be assured, to be confident, that really came through in their presentation.
Catherine, I would also.
And I was also kind of intrigued by this California 3-part. That project is about a little over twice the size of yours, but where they said, we can build one piece for one structural system and one mechanical system, and another out of, a more appropriate structural and mechanical electrical system. And I think that kind of philosophy might serve you well.
it's certainly thinking a little bit out of the box.
Yeah, I think the lessons learned question, I think they can all do function and technology, and but I think I learned more on how they reacted to some of the things, like with the media and the environment with their workers. I thought it was a very thorough presentation.
I was happy to hear them address the site design. I keep thinking about the fact that, I guess, because I'm not sure, should this building be kind of hidden in terms of what it is, or should it be really out there and open to the public? And how do you take care of both? They answered lots of different questions as your teams go down the road and decide this during the project.
Yeah, I was intrigued by their inclusion of community engagement as one of their lines of inquiry. I'm sorry I didn't have a time to ask if that was to inform the neighborhood or gather information from the neighborhood, but that was an interesting line that no one else put in.
Well, the community may have been more than just the neighbors. It might have been that broader community of who else will be using the facility that's beyond perhaps your usual suspects.
I have a large notion of neighbors.
Yeah.
I was intrigued a little bit that the California project, which is 18 years old, started out with rear projection technology, which seems to be like such a dinosaur that it's amazing that in 2002 they did it. But thinking back, it probably was the thing. And the fact that they retrofitted later to upgrade it, they've been through the kind of change that they talked about.
Other comments about this team?
I think I might have already spoken to the aesthetics. I wasn't listening, but it seemed like there was very strong aesthetics involved with what they seem to know with great EOC knowledge.
And I would just say the fact that Michael Rosen is their security consultant as well is a big plus, because finding that balance between being an open, welcome public building that is a symbol. That was really appealing to me. We've been buried in the basement of a commercial building in downtown St. Paul forever without any real identity. That is very appealing to me, that they think like that. But then acknowledging that it has to be a facility that can be secured and absolutely leak proof when we start bringing the governor and big city mayors and who knows whom else you saw visual from California with the vice president. I really like that, bringing this into the light, but then also being able to secure it, because I'll be honest, we had some frightening moments here during the civil unrest back in May and June. Things where I was not comfortable. After 30 years in the Army, I was not feeling very safe. So the security piece is very important to me.
One thing we haven't brought up is that the Wold did the pre-design, or in our discussion right now, in 2011, and I was a little concerned as to how they might bring forth, how they'd approach it now, and it impressed me. Sometimes the pre-design group doesn't always come forth because they feel like they maybe have it.
So much has changed since 2011.
Other comments about Wold? All right, with that, they are a St. Paul firm, neither targeted nor veteran owned, and their net fees per Minnesota employee are $31,529. Moving on to Leo Daly.
There was a strong, go ahead.
I thought they had too many presenters for a 20-minute presentation, and they worked hard to get everybody to say something, but there wasn't much depth to any of them. So, you know, that might have made their impact a little bit less.
I thought they had a strong start with those critical issues, the 3 issues they said they were going to bring forth, the mission critical expertise, the fact that they were into the high design on their buildings, and that there was a passion that the staff could bring, because a lot of them came from families or backgrounds that involved EOC and emergency dangerous or high security kind of situations. And I would have liked to hear a little bit more maybe about who those team players were, you know, who had that background and this passion for being on this team and this project. And then some of the Q&A, I felt like the answers went a little long and not as much substance as maybe we could have had.
Yeah, I had the impression that mission critical partners were going to be a much bigger part of this, and I was waiting to hear more from them, and was disappointed not to, because they seemed very key to all of this.
Other comments about Leo Daly's team?
You know, my is the, you know, probably the least qualified person in this panel. I definitely got a sense of strong technical competence. You know, I think they have the staff, weight, power, depth to technically do a very good job. The you know, the B3 compliance, the life safety codes. I mean, I think they got some real experts that they certainly, well, all 3 of these firms could absolutely do the job. But I thought they had an opportunity to kind of drive home their experience, their lessons learned from Pennsylvania and Kentucky, and really hold that up and saying, this is what you guys, this is what you're looking for. And we've done it a couple of times, and here's what we've learned. And I just never, I didn't get that. And I don't want to compare them to Wold, but like Wold, who really used that California, Palo Alto, King County to demonstrate and help us vision that they can do this. I found myself just wanting to hear more about Pennsylvania and Kentucky and other places. I get a little nervous when people talk about county level EOCs. Yep, they are. They are a parallel, but there's only one state EOC county EOCs are very much multi-purpose rooms because they hardly ever have to use them. They don't have the kind of the robustness that are required at the state level. So that was a little thin soup for me.
Yeah, and Pennsylvania and Kentucky were only mentioned in passing during the Q&A. I had forgotten all about them already from the written proposal, but I agree. You almost have to compare them to Wold for the depth of issue analysis specific to your project.
Other comments about this team? So with that, they are give me a moment here, Minneapolis firm, neither targeted nor veteran owned, and their net fees per Minnesota employee are $48,415. So we're going to take a break, and Glenn, Joe, and Kevin are going to caucus offline. We're going to come back. I guess I'm turning to you guys to say 15 minutes, 20 minutes, what's the right amount of time that we could kind of, not so much hold you to, but what do you think it'll take? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
I don't know, Glenn, I think 10, 15 minutes should give us plenty of time to do this, our perspective.
Okay, so, and just as a reminder, what we're going to do, we're going to vote for one firm, and that's the firm that you're going to try and engage to do the project. We are then going to vote for a second firm as an alternate. If you need a backup, you can't come to an agreement, the pre-design didn't go well, you at least have a backup, and we don't have to go through this process again, although I have found it very interesting. But we want to be sure that you have an option so that we don't delay your project going forward. So we're going to vote for one, and then we're going to do a second vote for an alternative or alternate, I guess. All
Say,
right.
Joe, can you give me a number to give you a call at?
Yep, 651-201-7688.
Okay.
Are you meeting at 10 after 12 then? Is that the idea?
Yeah, let's come back at 12:10.